I stood at the altar and promised fidelity, never knowing a secret from my past would shatter everything 10 years later. If you've ever kept a truth buried deep inside, subscribe now and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because this confession might change everything. My name is Carla. I'm 42 years old. People around us see me as strong, faithful, discreet. They praise our marriage as solid, ideal, and unbreakable. But every single compliment always felt like a needle piercing deeper into my chest, because beneath the image of the perfect wife, for 20 long years I've been hiding a truth that could crush everything we've built together. I cheated on Roberto. It was a single night, a reckless mistake, born from confusion and fear of commitment, fear of forever. But a month later, my worst nightmare became real. I discovered I was pregnant, and I wasn't certain Roberto was the father. In panic, I faced a decision: tell the truth and lose him forever, or remain silent and live with the doubt. I chose silence. I chose to pretend that the doubt didn't exist. I convinced myself every day that this baby was ours, truly ours. When our son was born, Roberto cried tears of pure joy. Every day after, he loved him, fiercely, proudly. He was the best father anyone could wish for, and I felt the crushing weight of guilt intensify with every loving gesture he made. Over the years, each birthday, every milestone, every moment of happiness was overshadowed by my fear of discovery. Every glance at my son was a reminder of the secret I could never share. Yet I told myself this secret was mine alone to carry, my burden, my penance. Until one day, a simple school assignment, a harmless DNA project, meant to trace family ancestry, shattered the fragile reality I'd worked so desperately to hold together. Roberto received a call from school. The DNA results didn't match. Pieces didn't fit. He confronted me gently, cautiously, desperate for some explanation, hoping there had been a mistake. But as he searched my eyes, all I could offer him was silence. Silence heavier than words. I watched the shock ripple through his eyes, felt the pain in his trembling hands as he processed this devastating truth. I broke the heart of the only man who had ever truly loved me. I wish I could say I didn't know the consequences, but I always did. Every sleepless night, every whispered prayer for forgiveness, every forced smile had been preparing me for this moment of truth. My marriage, my life, my very identity is now uncertain. I don't know how Roberto can ever look at me the same way again. The guilt has finally overtaken me, forcing me to face the reality of what I've done, what I've hidden. This confession is my desperate attempt to finally breathe, to finally tell the truth that has been suffocating me for a decade. I share my story because I know I'm not alone. Someone out there may be carrying a similar burden, a secret that grows heavier with each passing day. If you're listening to my words and feel your heart break because you recognize this pain, know you're not alone. Secrets have power, but truth, even when devastating, sets us free. It's time to break the silence, no matter how painful it may be. This is my story, my truth, and today. I walked down the aisle knowing I had already betrayed the man waiting for me at the altar. It happened the week before our wedding. I told Roberto I needed time alone to clear my mind, when, in truth, I had agreed to meet with someone I thought I had already left behind, my ex. He had reached out saying he needed closure, that we never had the conversation that ended properly, that he just wanted to wish me well. I agreed, believing I was strong enough that it was harmless. But when I saw him, old emotions, unresolved feelings, the familiarity, the regret, it all came crashing in like a wave. I couldn't stop. We talked, then we cried. And then I made the biggest mistake of my life. We slept together one night. One moment that destroyed the clean start I thought I was walking into. I didn't tell Roberto. I couldn't. I told myself it meant nothing, that it was closure, that it would be a secret I'd bury so deep no one would ever find it. I put on the veil and said my vows. I said I'd be faithful. I swore to myself I would never let anything come between us again. But life doesn't let you escape so easily. A month into the marriage, I missed my period. My stomach dropped. I told myself it was stress, changes, hormones. But I knew, deep down, I knew. When I saw the positive test, I froze. I did the math. I counted the days. It didn't add up, right? There was a chance. A real chance that Roberto wasn't the father. That my first child, our first miracle, was built on betrayal. I didn't tell him. I didn't tell anyone. I just decided. I told myself if I loved Roberto and committed fully, then maybe the past would disappear. But it didn't. It haunted me in quiet moments, when he'd kiss my belly, when he cried in the delivery room, when he stayed up all night rocking our baby. The tension wasn't in loud arguments. It lived in my silence, in the way I avoided certain questions, in the way I watched our son grow, wondering which smile was his, and which one came from someone else. I told myself it was only once, that it was a moment of weakness, that my love for Roberto erased that night. But love isn't a time machine, and secrets don't die quietly. I spent years being the perfect wife, the loyal partner, the doting mother, and yet, beneath the surface, I was always waiting for the past to catch up, waiting for the truth to burst through the cracks I tried to seal. I never meant to live a double life. I just couldn't find the courage to risk losing everything for something I couldn't undo, so I made a choice. And now, the cost of that choice is finally staring me in the face. The years went by. I gave birth to a beautiful boy, and Roberto raised him as his own, with the kind of love that makes people say he was born to be a father. I remember the way he held him the first time, how his eyes filled with tears and how his hands trembled. I wanted to scream the truth right there, but I didn't. I swallowed it, buried it, and told myself I was protecting them both. From that moment on, I became two people: the wife who laughed at the dinner table, who held her husband's hand in church, who kissed her son's forehead every night tanned, the woman who knew she was living a lie. Every "I love you" from Roberto felt like a stab. Every bedtime story I read to our son made my heart race, because I could never escape the question, what if he finds out? And when my little boy looked up at me with those big eyes and asked, "Mom, do I look like Dad did when he was little?" I died a little. I smiled and nodded, but inside I was screaming. I tried to atone. I served him with everything I had. I made our house a home. I gave Roberto all the loyalty I had denied him in that one night of weakness. But guilt doesn't go away just because you're nice. And the secret didn't fade, it grew. It haunted me in small ways, in birthday cards, in school projects, in Father's Day drawings that said, "You're the best dad in the world." I kept praying. I begged God to let me forget that one night. It was like living with a ticking bomb under our floor, and I was the only one who could hear it. Then, one afternoon, it finally exploded. The teacher asked them to compare their DNA results with their parents'. A fun experiment, they said. Just a class activity. I laughed nervously when he told me about it, but inside I panicked. I didn't sleep that night. The next week, when the results came back, he was confused. I felt like I was underwater, suffocating. I told him not to worry, that sometimes the tests aren't accurate, but he kept asking. Kids are smart, and Roberto, he noticed, he watched my reactions. He started putting the pieces together. The walls I built over 10 years were beginning to crack, and all it took was a school science project. Roberto came home earlier than usual that day. He looked pale, shaken. He had just come from our son's school. They had conducted a simple genetics project, matching parent and child blood types, discussing inheritance traits, something playful, educational, but something didn't match. The teacher, concerned, asked if he was sure he was the biological father. They rechecked everything, then sent the samples to a lab. Roberto didn't tell me any of this until he had the final result in his hand. I saw the envelope on the table. I saw his hands trembling. I tried to pretend I didn't notice, but when I approached him, he looked straight at me with eyes that weren't angry, just broken. "Carla, what is this?" he said, showing me the test. I froze. My body went cold. My throat closed. "It's a mistake," I whispered. "A lab mistake. A test like this? It can't be." "Don't lie," he interrupted,
That kind of
calmly,
that holds
deadly,
a storm
calm
behind it.
asterisk. "Is he my son?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I looked down, and that was the answer. He sat down, silent, staring at nothing. "It was one time," I whispered, "before we got married. Just one mistake. I thought I was saying goodbye to the past." I never saw him again. Roberto didn't scream. He didn't throw anything. He just stared at me, eyes full of disbelief and sorrow. "So, you married me knowing the truth?" "I didn't know for sure, but you suspected," he interrupted. "And you never told me? Not in the hospital? Not on his first birthday? Not when he called me daddy? Not once, Carla." I was scared. I said, "I loved you. I still do. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was terrified I'd lose you." His voice cracked as he said it. "So you let me love a child thinking he was mine? You let me give my life, my name, my heart, under a lie?" I tried to approach him. He stood up. A man deserves to know what he's building his life on. And then he walked to the door, paused, turned back. "You didn't betray me years ago? You betrayed me every single day you stayed silent." He left. That was the last time I saw his eyes before he moved to his brother's house. He didn't even take his things, just his Bible and his keys. I collapsed on the kitchen floor, and for the first time, I cried, not for being found out but for everything I had broken, for every smile I had accepted, knowing it wasn't rooted in truth, for every night I kissed them both goodnight, holding in a scream. I thought I was doing the right thing, protecting us. But the truth doesn't stay buried. It always grows roots. And when it rises, it tears through everything. Roberto didn't shout. He didn't insult me. He didn't slam the doors or break anything, but the silence he left behind was louder than any scream could ever be. That night he slept in the guest room. He didn't say goodnight. He didn't look at me. And when our son asked why, I had to smile and say, Daddy was just tired. But even a child knows when love disappears from a room. The next day, Roberto started making calls to lawyers. To a counselor, he didn't tell me what he was planning. But the distance grew like a wall between us, brick by brick. Meals were quiet. The house became cold. Every conversation was mechanical. When we crossed paths in the hallway, his eyes passed through me like I was a stranger. I tried to reach him. I tried to say I was sorry. I tried to remind him of the family we built. But for every word I said, I could see him sinking deeper into a place I could no longer reach. Our son began asking questions. Why is Dad always angry? Why don't you eat together anymore? I wanted to tell him the truth. But how do you explain betrayal to a child who still sees his parents as heroes? So I lied again. It's just a phase, I said. It will pass. But it didn't. Roberto started working late, sometimes not coming home at all. I'd hear the front door close after midnight and I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, knowing he was slipping away. One night I saw him, packing a small bag. He said he was going to stay at his brother's place for a few days. I need to think, he said. No anger, no tears, just exhaustion. I don't know what's real anymore, Carla. I was losing my anchor, my history, my safe place. I felt like a stranger in my own home, like the walls were judging me, like the silence was screaming everything I had tried to hide. This wasn't about one mistake anymore. It was about 10 years of pretending, of taking love I didn't fully deserve, of looking into the eyes of a man who gave me everything and giving him only a version of the truth. I didn't just lose Roberto's trust. I lost the version of myself that believed I could bury pain and it would stay quiet. I was still in the house, but I no longer belonged in it. I started therapy 2 weeks after Roberto left. At first I sat in silence. The words wouldn't come. How do you explain a betrayal that lasted 10 years? How do you confess a sin you never stopped regretting? I brought a notebook. I began writing letters to him. Some were filled with love, others with pain. All of them were soaked in guilt. I never gave him a single one. They stayed inside the drawer, just like the truth did all those years. Some days I wanted to vanish, just disappear, erase myself from a story I no longer recognized. But for the first time, I didn't run. I stayed. I faced the silence. I faced my reflection. And I faced the version of me I swore I'd never become. In therapy, I realized something that shook me. I thought I was protecting Roberto. I thought silence was mercy, that withholding the truth would preserve our happiness. But a lie doesn't protect anyone. It poisons everything, slowly, quietly, fatally. Every smile I gave him while hiding the truth was a wound. Every birthday, every anniversary, every prayer we shared, built on a fracture I refused to see. And now, the weight is fully mine. I walk through the house like a ghost. The therapist asked me what I want now. I said, redemption. But I don't know if that's still possible. I broke. Something I may never fix. Roberto hasn't filed for divorce, but we don't speak. He sends updates through lawyers. Our son knows something's wrong. He's quieter now. I see my pain in his eyes. I carry guilt for both of them. Not just for what I did, but for how long I let it live in silence. I don't know if I'll ever get my family back. Maybe I don't deserve to. But I know this. The truth has a voice. It doesn't die. It waits, and one way or another, it always finds a way to be heard. That's why I'm here speaking now. Not to ask for sympathy, not to erase what I've done, but to finally stop hiding, to take responsibility, and I still cry when I think about our wedding day. The promises, the dress, the look in Roberto's eyes. I swore fidelity, but I carried a fracture in my vow. Now, all I can do is build something truer, even if I have to build it alone. Have you ever kept a secret because you thought it was the right thing to do? Because you were trying to protect someone you love? I did. And for 10 years I convinced myself it was mercy. That silence was softer than the truth. That love could survive on half light and half truths. But now I know. Secrets don't disappear. They grow roots inside your soul. They twist into every word you say, every hug you give, every prayer you whisper. And one day they bloom, not as peace but as destruction. If you're holding something right now, something you swore you'd take to your grave, let me tell you what that silence is doing. It's stealing your sleep. It's dimming your joy. It's keeping you from fully loving and being loved. You may not see it today, but years from now, at a dinner table, at a hospital bed, during a school project, that truth will rise. It will show up uninvited, at the worst possible moment, and it won't ask for permission. I'm not here to tell you that confession is easy. It's not. It might break the person you love. It might change everything, but you know what's worse? Letting the person you love live a life that isn't fully theirs, letting them build dreams on foundations you know are cracked. That's not love. That's fear wearing love's costume. I thought I was sparing Roberto. I thought I was sparing myself. But I was delaying a pain that only got heavier. The lie won't stay small. It will shape who you become. It will whisper in your happiest moments. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it won't cost you. But truth, even when it wounds, is the only soil where real love can grow. Talk to someone. Write it down. Find a way to let light in before darkness eats everything. If you've made a mistake, you are not beyond grace. If you've been silent for years, your voice still matters. This is your sign. It's not too late. Truth spoken in time may still hurt. But truth delayed becomes a wound that never stops bleeding. This was my Speak story. Before time speaks. I stood at the altar and promised to be faithful. I looked into the eyes of the man I loved and swore I would never hurt him. But I already carried a secret that I didn't have the courage to reveal. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought protecting him from the truth was love. But now I know. Silence is not love. And secrets don't stay buried forever. If you've ever made a mistake trying to love someone, if you've ever tried to protect someone and ended up hurting them even more, then you know what I'm feeling. This pain, it's not just guilt. It's the pain of knowing that I betrayed someone who gave me everything. And the worst part, I still love him. I always have. Maybe that's what makes this confession so hard. I'm not here to be pitied. I'm not asking for applause. I'm just telling the truth because I need to breathe again. This channel is for people like me, people who have messed up, people who tried to do the right thing and messed up terribly, people who have stories that no one knows but hearts that still want redemption. If this is you, write in the comments. Don't be afraid. No one here is perfect, but we're honest. We're trying. And sometimes trying is all we can do. Maybe your story is different from mine. Maybe your secret is smaller, or deeper. But if it's heavy, if it's scary, if it's hidden, it needs a voice. This is your space. This is your moment. Let's stop pretending we have it all together. Let's start healing one confession at a time. And yes, you still have something buried inside you that needs to come out. We won't judge you. Leave your story here in the comments and never forget that your story can help others. Keep watching this video that's appearing on your screen.